Welcome to the Sober Truth Podcast, where we bring faith and recovery together to have raw conversations with interesting people about how they live out their life authentically as the person God created them to be. I'm super excited today as we are having a conversation with Lacey Sturm from the band Flyleaf and her own music career, and also as the person who wrote the foreword for The Uncovery, someone I consider to be a close friend. She's got an amazing story, and her journey through the rock industry and as well as her journey through faith is one that I truly admire. And so get ready, strap in, and enjoy today's episode. Oh yeah, one more thing. If you'd be so kind, please subscribe to the station so you're sure to get our content every week right away. Enjoy the show. So let's dive in as we talk today to someone who's been a good friend of mine for quite a few years now. And it's actually kind of weird to be in an interview situation because we're usually just friends going through life together. But it's an honor to have you on the show, Lacey. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for asking me to come today and talk about these really important things.
Yeah, I know. If you don't know, those of you watching, Lacey wrote the foreword to my book, The Uncovery, and our friendship was really deepened after that. We'd met a few years prior to that, but I don't know if you remember this, Lacey, but one of the things that you said to me on the call when you finally gave me your answer of whether or not you would write the foreword was, you said to me, you go, I could totally see us utilizing this type of material to really help people with, mental health problems and addiction problems in all different industries and all different walks of life where people are stuck and struggling. And I was just happy to get the forward, but you were like all in on like, we need to have a change in the way that the world looks at recovery around mental health issues and the way people are stuck in so much silence and in pain. And I was, blown away by that. And honestly, ever since then, we've been working together in one capacity or another. And it's just been an honor to do that. But to be able to be at this point today where we're doing some stuff together with the Uncovery and just deepening our conversation. So, where's your heart at today? What would you like to dive into first?
Well, yeah, I think the thing that was so powerful to me when I was just reading your book was just the fact that there is something so tangible. You have such credibility from the places that you speak from because you've not only walked through recovery, but you're walking with people currently. And it's like usually when you talk to people who are in the places that you're at, it just feels like they're in the middle of a war zone and you can't really talk to them because they're just working. But the fact that you found some kind of a balance where you're able to be above that and keep pulling people up above it with you is just so empowering, because I think a lot of people really do want to be with their loved ones through everything they go through. They just don't have any idea how. And just the fact that that's even possible to do that and maintain your own, instead of getting pulled into their things, to pull them up into yours, or however that works. Yeah. It's so filled with, so hope filled for me. And as a person who loves and has loved many people, who've walked through mental health and addiction issues and struggles, that, it's a roller coaster. I got to work with the singer for Nothing More, and Nothing More's first single that really, really got out there was about his sister's struggle with addiction. And he was just very honest about what he witnessed. And some of it felt very harsh to some people, but they didn't walk through it, the things he said. And, it felt very cold, some of the things. But when you look at his desperation of like, well, this is art came out of the pain that I went through, and here it is. If you have some better way to do what I did, then, I mean, I just can't imagine if he had had you to walk through it with him. I mean, I'm saying you because you're a living person that I've been talking to, walking through things, but then you've given your heart in this book and shared tools and equipping.
Yeah.
So cool. It's just so hopeful. I'm sorry, that was a lot.
No, it's it's kind of, I don't know. I find it a little bit overwhelming sometimes because I think somebody may be listening. If they just heard that clip, they'd be like, I'm going to reach out to George Wood and he's going to have the answer. And it's like, I don't have the answer. But I might be able to provide you with some hope, just because I've been in the middle of things for so long. But it's not, and I think that's part of where we've made mistakes, is that we want an answer that changes everything. And I think we have to shift our perception on what we're really trying to do. And so sometimes it just looks like, you and I just had this conversation 2 days ago about someone in our lives where it's like, I just need to change my perception of what I expect from them. And I got to love them where they're at. Of course, we want the ultimate best for someone. We want a person to walk away free and sober and transformed. But what if they're not going to? How do we tend to love them? And I think the Christian church as a whole has done a bad job because they want results. And if you don't get it, then we have this thing called hell, and it's threatened over everyone. And it's kind of put out there as, well, I guess you're not a Christian, or you're not a believer, or you're just, because it's just easier that way, because it's sort of this cutoff mark for, you didn't turn your life around the way we want you to. So here's our exit plan for you. You don't fit. And the reality is we're called to love one another. And sometimes we have to love each other in pain and in darkness, even though that person may not be willing or capable of change, and certainly not the way that we want them to, right? And so just being able to shape the way we perceive a person's ability to change, I think is helpful to people. As a whole, and looking at mental health and sobriety and things of that nature. But when it comes to I think of, just watching you over, the last 5 years or 6 years that we've been friends, and seeing you go through different things. What are some of the ways that you yourself, you just, a lot of people know your story. Obviously, you're pretty famous, and your story of coming through all the pain and stuff that you've went through. But even in life today, like, I've seen you go through some really crazy stuff and maintain your own mental health. How do you do that?
It's a funny question to ask today. I feel pretty good today.
Amen.
But sometimes it's like, I can't say that. And that's what's cool, is that I think to be able to say that and know that yesterday was really hard. Just to be honest, like yesterday I had a counseling session, which I'm so thankful for that. My husband and I have been going to counseling since we first got married, because I was married before, and every time anything happens, I'm like, well, I need to go to counseling, because just in case, even if we're healthy, we go, we check up at the doctor, and especially when things are getting really stressful. But then sometimes we need separate counseling in the middle of that too, which is so good, because sometimes we think, and I wish all of our relationships were perfect. We had perfect families that we could, and friends, and that we could just tell each other the truth, and we could receive it, and we could just be okay. But on the journey there, I guess God has blessed certain people to be able to study the human psyche and the soul and relationships, and give you really good advice, or lead you to good advice, ask you the right questions. And that's so important, so for me, I one of the very basic things is that in this season, when I find myself struggling, I ask for help.
Yeah.
And ask God if I'm not in a position to hear him very clearly for whatever reason, that I ask God to help bring whatever it takes to help me to hear him clear, and that's the people around me a lot of times. And that's really, really important. And there's been seasons where there hasn't been anyone at all, and I've had to really learn to pray in those seasons. So it's funny how that changes too. Your ability to enter into a confidence that you're connecting with God, or a comfort, or awareness, because that awareness isn't always as strong as other times.
Yeah.
So there's this word, the word faithfulness, I've been clinging to that too. Which is when you don't know where your faith is, but you can choose faithfulness in that still.
Yeah.
So just keep walking and doing the doing the thing that is what you should do, even though it doesn't always, there's no feelings, there's no like, you know what I mean. You talk about
But
this.
I think with what you said, right? The most important thing you said was right in the very beginning when you said, it's funny you asked me that today, because today I'm okay, but yesterday maybe not so much, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I know, like, especially being a public person, even for me on a much, much smaller scale, people read the books and things, and they think like my recovery's easy, and I never struggle, or never tempted, or never any of this stuff. And so you being somebody who sings and presents yourself in a certain way, people probably can look at that and they can grasp your music, and it can give them hope, and they can think, well, part of that hope is somehow tied to you never struggling. But in the reality is, we all struggle. And I lead a trauma based faith group on Wednesday nights, and just the other night I was sharing how my own struggles recently, and how my journaling and crying out to God often resembles almost the Psalms, because I feel so lost. And and you get those people that are looking at you like, yeah, but you wrote those books, and you've been sober for 20 years or almost 20 years. It's like, yeah, but that's a picture of parts of my life, but my life in totality is a person who struggles just like anybody else. But we have a aspect of our faith that we don't let go of, and that's the part I almost feel like that's almost like what we're trying to really present to people now is it's okay to be weak, and it's okay to struggle, instead of sort of this faith that looks at like ultimate confidence and certainty all the time, right? And we've both been through different aspects of faith on our journeys. How do you feel like especially over the last 15 years you've seen your faith change along with how you view mental health and recovery?
Well, I came into a relationship with God through a very supernatural experience. And I expected that was the way God operated all the time. Like I could, I looked in the Bible, because they said that that's what God said, and that what he says is in the Bible. And I was a smart aleck, teenager who was like, well, how do you know? And, of course I researched where we got the Bible and all that stuff. And the Bible will just start speaking to me. And then I'm reading these stories, and what's in the Bible is happening in the churches I'm going to. And I'm like, this is so amazing. God is real and alive, and Jesus is raised from the dead, and his Holy Spirit is here. Like God is with us, and he's in that place. So like, let me go to that place as many times as the doors are open. Because that's where I got healed, and that's where I learned about God, and there's no end to him. And then, of course, we moved, and, we went to different places, and I had to figure out how to find God, you know, on my bedroom floor when I'm laying there in prayer and trying to, you know, read the Bible. And he met me, you know, in those places, so tangibly, so obviously. And then, you know, I experienced a lot of emotional comfort in those times, and I was emotionally unstable when I came in, you know, so it's really amazing that God catered to blessing my emotions. Like, I had so much joy and peace when I could worship in a really focused way. If I didn't, I had a really hard time with life. I had to make time to do that in a really focused and intense way. Now, fast forward when I get married, and I talk about this in one of my books about when I first got married, just how God was like, okay, I want you to seek me as you serve your husband in this season and walk with him, you know, which I didn't know how to do. Like, learned that. How do I find, you know, not just, well, I guess I should back up, because like before I met my husband, and that's what that second book is about. It's just about how I went through a season of deception because I based my whole relationship with God on emotions. And I found myself in an emotional affair thinking I was following Jesus, and I was deceiving myself. I was deceived into thinking that because all of these emotions were there, that I was finding God in a really unique way that happened to be in an affair. Like, which is so, like, when you talk about it, you're like, duh, you know, any normal person knows that's probably not good to like be in that situation. And there were people around me telling me this is not good. And I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, our conversations are so full of all these things, you know, it's like so good. And in the end, I ended up in a way more suicidal place than I was when I first came to God. I was like so much closer, and God interrupting that process again, that process of planning, you know, making a plan to take my life, and he very supernaturally interrupted that process. And I realized after I came out of that I needed to not just think I could hear the voice of God by myself, because I can talk myself into whatever I think is best, but I needed an outside person looking in my life, in the scriptures too. Like, not try to manipulate them. If it's not black and white, I'm not going to try to read into it and make it something. And but even that, I needed an outside voice to help, like, see what I didn't see in my own life. And so I ended in a relationship with a pastor and his wife, and that helped me to know I can listen to somebody who has no ulterior motive. They're gaining nothing from this except less sleep with their 4 kids that wake them up all night. You know, like, there's nothing that gain from this. They're just literally trying to serve God by loving me and want the best for me. And I learned to trust that God was speaking to somebody else, and he wanted me to listen to them when I didn't get it. And they're like, I don't think you should be doing that. Okay, well, I don't see anything wrong with it, but okay. And then I would do that, and God would just bless me so much in that time. And that's when I met Josh. And thank God that I learned that before I got married, because when I got married, you have to do that in your marriage a lot. You know, you have to listen to your spouse when you don't get why they're coming from. Yeah. And just be like, okay, well, I guess so. That's not really what I was thinking, but, you know. So that helps us to have a really peaceful, a lot more peaceful marriage. And then after that, you know, I'm sorry, that's so long, but my relationship with God and learning how to hear what he's saying went from me personally to great pain, and then me in relationship one-on-one with people. And then again, even that I took to an extreme and lost and just acted like everything that maybe Josh said, it's all on him. And then he turns out not to be God. And then the whole world's shaking. Like, how come you're not Jesus? You know, and like, it didn't work. And he's like, and then God, I think, makes that happen. He shakes that for us. So we remember our foundation is only in him, and everything else is like reflections of him. But the moment that we start turning those reflections into like who he as if that's God himself, like the people in our lives. Then he'll show us their humanity, and we have to remember, oh yeah, we're all brothers and sisters. Even though we have examples of the bridegroom or examples of a father, we're all brothers and sisters of the one Father of us all, and we're all on a journey. We need to have
Yeah.
grace for each other. So that was hard, because now I have to figure out, oh yeah, no, like I got to be able to discern too. It's like, it's just, and so here I am, sort of still in that middle place of like balancing, and I became Orthodox, which was huge, tumultuous. Like personally, that was really me selling the pearl of great price for me. I saw that God was leading me in that direction, and I questioned every single step of the way, and God like would defend what he was doing. And basically Josh was 100% positive that this is where he wanted to go. So much healing in this journey for him to become an Orthodox Christian. And basically he was going to do it on his own. And because I wasn't sure. And I was like praying, God, I don't want to be a part of something that makes more disunity. You know, everybody's divided. Everybody's coming from a different place. Everybody's thinks they have the right way. And I just don't want to be, I just want us to be one, you know, I just want us to alternate, like look for where we agree. And I want to be united. And as I was praying that, I felt like the Lord was like, well, let's start with unity in your own house. And I'm like, okay, I'll go too. And I'm so glad. Yeah. I'm so glad. And that's been huge, because it's a sober faith. I don't know how to explain that, but sobriety isn't always as exciting sometimes as the drunken day.
Absolutely. You hit that on the head.
So I'm learning who I am as a sober Christian. If that makes sense.
It does to me. It may not be to anybody listening, but it does to me. Yeah.
It's very humbling and in a good way, I think, for me personally in my extreme life.
Yeah. I think, so God, I don't know. I really do believe God, if we look, does provide like these little signposts along the way of things in our life that direct us to like relationships and things like that. And one of them for me was just the unique experience that I was able to be present and stay the weekend with you while you became Orthodox. And you like what we consider, you were baptized into the Orthodox faith. Just me and you guys, and we'd never met in person. We weren't like that close before we'd met, but I was able to, God just put me there in your family. No one else could come that weekend. And it was like just me in this monumental event. And I just felt like so honored and privileged to like, and sort of like, wow, I mean, this family's just like, yeah, you're here for the most intimate, moment of our spiritual walk, but come on board, and to be part of that whole weekend with all of you. But I just felt like that's one of those moments where God's like, yeah, you're, and we said it, that I think one of our driving back and forth to the Orthodox church that weekend, but what does mean, it's just like, this is a sign that like our families are supposed to be in relationship with each other. And one day we'll look back at this and be like, wow, but it was such a beautiful experience watching all of you go through that. And then countless phone calls that you and I had afterwards where trying to wrestle with like, okay, what does deliverance look like now that I'm in Orthodox? Like, I know what I would do before. I know the prayers I would pray before, but what do I pray now when I think, and just all of these like cool experiences that you got to go through, and the wrestling that I felt very privileged to listen to. And at times feel like, I don't necessarily have that answer myself, but it is a change. And I want to help our listeners. I think when Lacey says a sober faith, and I'm not speaking directly for what Lacey thinks, but I think there's part of it for me. When I hear her say that, what I recognize is, the Orthodox faith is what we call like a liturgical faith. It's not as much open to interpretation as a lot of Protestant charismatic churches are. I remember Josh and I speaking that weekend, and Josh was like, one of the things, and he didn't say it as it was wrong. He was just simply stating it bothered him that you could go to a different Protestant church on 5 different blocks and they could believe 5 different things about the same passage or whatever. And it was troubling to him because of the way Josh's mind works. And I got that. And so I think a lot of, especially in charismatic, and once again, not saying it's wrong, it just isn't fitting for everyone. There's not as much interpretation in the Orthodox faith. It's very, this is what we do, and this is what we've done for almost 2,000 years. So that's sobering. That's very like, okay, there's not an interpretation here. This is the prayer. This is what we do. And there's certainly something very beautiful about that.
I think that's the mystery of allowing the Holy Spirit to teach you in the boundaries. They call it a fireplace for your fire. They say that in the Catholic Church too. Within the boundaries that you're given, to allow yourself, like, say, like how, so part of the liturgy is the Lord's Prayer. Everybody says the Lord's Prayer. It's in the scriptures. No matter what, if you're a Christian, you probably say the Lord's Prayer. We all agree there's unity there, right? We can all say that. We say it at AA meetings, right? At the end of AA meetings, no matter what people believe, like they hold hands, say the Lord's Prayer. I'm sorry. I just know that's like a unifying thing. And but how many times can you say it and it not feel like you're I don't know, just repeating vain repetitions, right? Well, the mystery is you can say it forever and it will always be new. I'm in a band. I sing All Around Me for 20 years. Every night. I cannot play a show without playing All Around Me. Now, I probably would take it off the set list if it didn't really disappoint so many people, and I understand what that's like. I've been to shows where like, they didn't even play that song. I'm like, what's wrong with them? But the truth is, when I play the song in front of
Yep.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Every time I play All Around Me in front of an audience, whether I have the same fan that follows us around in the front row, or it's all new faces. It's a new day with new challenges, and it hits me newly every time I sing All Around Me. And it reminds me of things why I wrote the song in the first place. And that eternal encounter with God that I'm singing about is never old. It's just a miracle. It's a mystery, and I find that sobering.
Yeah.
I find that by itself, if you just sit on that one thing, you can just dive into this depth, and it's hard to still yourself, to be still enough to let yourself do that. And to be still is sober. Being sober. Like, you have to get through all of your real self when you don't have any distractions. You have to get through all your real brain, all your real memories. You have to get still, right? Which, anyway, it is a beautiful thing to honor the mystery of the depth of who we are inside, that we distract ourselves from with all of other things. And it's a beautiful thing to get to the depth of who our Creator is, outside of all of his benefits, which are so tangible, in the worship song, or in the really good message, or in, we have to just struggle to sit still and just be with him. So it is I can't think of a better word than sober.
Yeah, I like that. Sobering. It's very sobering. I say to people in recovery all the time, it's like, I did to a mutual friend of ours that we were working with. I remember her complaining about being bored. I'm like, that's the secret to sobriety. being okay with being bored. She didn't want to hear that. Of course, she's like, no, I want things to do or whatever. But it's like, you don't get it. If like you can't somehow be okay with the stillness,
Yeah.
then you're never going to be truly sober, because you're going to constantly be going for the next emotional ride. And so if we can't learn to be at peace with God in silence, well, I got news for you. Then you're going to be creating things that God may not be saying to you.
So true. Wow. Yeah.
And that's not sober. That's something totally different.
Yeah. And I think too, for me too, with this whole thing, I have been so thankful because the world is getting more, I'm no longer able to multitask. Like I'm just so bad at it because my brain goes everywhere. I just feel like maybe that's what social media, like our iPhone life is your brain just is wired now to not be still ever.
Yeah.
So we have to really fight for it. And I'm so thankful, as much as like Father Tom Soroka, I did a couple interviews with him recently. They're the only interviews I did actually for the album. But he asked me one time, he said, are you happy as an Orthodox Christian? And then he sent a message before I could answer and said, are you happy that you're Orthodox? And I was like, well, for the first answer, no. And the second answer, yes. Because I'm not happier as an Orthodox Christian, but I'm so happy that I'm Orthodox. Like maybe somebody's not happy or sober, but they're so happy they're sober.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
So it's like, it's a deep stability that can't be shaken. It's like, I'm like at the roots, there's not as much going on the limbs where there's lots of change and wind blowing, but at the roots, at least you're still. I don't know. Yeah.
And in a way, that is the maturity of faith. I'm trying to be careful because I don't want to, alienate anyone. Because everybody, here's the thing that I always say, it's like, we're all on our own journey, right?
Yes.
And that's part of like how we have to learn to be empathetic and loving to one another, instead of being, you have to be on my journey. That's your journey. You do what you do, right? And so we're not trying to say one way over another or anything, but there is something to be said about your faith growing over a period of time, whoever you are. And if you're, somebody who's been a person of faith for 20 years and your faith looks the same now as it did 20 years ago, I don't know if that's really faith. And it's certainly not fulfilled faith. So what your changes look like, I don't know. But I know that there should be certain changes, and it should be about growing and not just an experience. And I think we get stuck in that cycle of experience. It's like, yeah, but experiences are fun. Like you said, I may have been happier before I was Orthodox, but I'm happy I'm Orthodox. It's like when I was getting high, I was very happy all the time. I was high. Come on. You can look at pictures of me back when I used to drink, and every single one of them, I'm smiling in. I got this stupid grin. I looked happier. It was what they call drunk. That doesn't necessarily, indicate like a fulfilled joy of purpose of being. And so, and your faith, whoever you are, your faith should be growing towards that and not, what's going on this weekend that I can maybe have some type of an experience, right? It's about a deep, and I think that really plays into mental health, because when we look at people that struggle with their mental health, when I struggle from a personal experience, right? When I struggle with my mental health, I am all over the place, right? I can't focus. I've experienced something in the last couple of years that I hadn't ever really experienced. But when my mental health is struggling, I can't even read, right? The words are jumbled up and I'm all over. I may not even realize my mental health is struggling, but all of a sudden I can't read. So then I'm like, okay, this is an indicator, or I can't steady myself for a moment, right? And so when we look at people that are struggling with mental health, and it's just in a comparison to what our faith looks like, right? It's like our faith should be something that we're growing in and changing in and feeling more and more stable in. It, at our, like you just said, at our roots, we should feel more secure and stable in. And so when we look at like mental health, when our mental health is all over the place, it's a similar thing. So a person who's watching or listening to this, you can look at your faith or your mental health. And if you're all over the place, you're not in a good place. Mm-hmm. So the key is like learning to be stable in your roots, to be able to be, for lack of a better way of putting it, okay with being bored and still for a moment, to mm-hmm. sort of silence all of the chaos around you, to figure out what you're actually experiencing in the moment, to figure out what God is actually saying to you in the moment, whatever that might be. But both circumstances are very, very similar. And a key to being able to do that is to recognize what in your life you can change in order to get to that place. Because a lot of times we just take on too much. Mm-hmm. And so I'm leading this to a question. And so for you, and we had private conversations, but just whatever you can want to say publicly, like, you are somebody who's concerned about your spiritual walk and about your faith journey and about your family and caring for your family. How did you transition back into playing with Flyleaf after all these years and still hold on to those things that are so important to you? Was that a struggle? Was it something you had to work on in that time frame?
Well, I think the hardest part about reuniting with Flyleaf was figuring out what it meant for us to be together. Because when we first got together, it was about we were all Christians trying to share our journey with people that it might help, just in connecting with God through the music, and that bringing other people into the presence of God, where he could deal with stuff with his love and with his light. And, he could do that himself through us bringing the music, into the atmosphere. And just like, and that's actually, we got a lot, we have so many stories from people, emails and stuff, and fans to this day, that's exactly the encounters that they had, where it helped them through suicide ideation. It helped them through addictions, alcoholism, divorce, parent struggles, somebody else, a loved one suicide, like all these amazing things that a lot of times they didn't know if they could get through, and it helped them get through. And I think that's a story with a lot of rock music in general, but for us, it was really amazing because this was actually the prayer that we prayed. Mm-hmm. It was actually, we prayed for people to have freedom from everything that was holding them in bondage to dark things like hating themselves, or just being filled with depression and all those things that steal life from us, Mm-hmm. And that was our prayer as a group, like all 5 of us. And even our crew, a lot of times, was people who agreed with that kind of mission. I mean, it was intentionally, I wanted to go and play in front of a girl like my 16-year-old self who would never set foot in a church, and let her know that, that she was loved, and that she was important, and she was seen, and life was a gift to her, and that she could go another day. I wanted to pray that for her from in my heart when I was singing the songs that had to do with my own journey with that. And I wanted to meet her and hug her, if I could. A girl like that, like my 16-year-old self, or a boy like that, anyway, whatever. It's just, so that was very intentional with Flyleaf. And so when we left, when we by the time we left, and the band with me in it, they went on with a different singer. The motivation for people, for the guys in the band playing shows, was a little bit different. And I'm not sure if they were ever exactly the same. I mean, they absolutely weren't always exactly the same as my motivation. I mean, but I think there was an assumption that was everybody's, because I would talk about it a lot and a lot of the guys were quiet. And so some of them maybe didn't have that and maybe didn't even agree with it. I don't know. But whenever I left the band, and they had their own version of what Flyleaf was with Kristen May, and that was its own thing. And I always hoped for the best for them for that. I didn't feel possessive over the band because it was a miracle. It wasn't mine. I was like, hi, Atticus. Sorry, Atticus found a lizard.
It's my pet.
Here. Yeah. Here, can you go finish your movie? I'm almost done. Sorry. So when Kristen May was in the band, it was a different thing. And when we got back together after Kristen left, because she became a mom, after Kristen left and we got back together, I just didn't know what that meant. You know, the opportunity came to play a show that would have been really, really good for everybody's family. And it did weigh on me, the fact that everybody built their careers from teenagers in Flyleaf. I never thought about financial security through being provided through the music. I always attributed it to, well, we're just trying to follow what God wants us to do, and he's going to take care of us. I never thought it was because of the music, because most bands I know don't make any money. You know? I mean, for me, it's like, I didn't expect that. But we were financially successful, and that was a bonus to me. But for the rest of the guys, because they're really good musicians, they're actually excellent at what they do. Mm-hmm. It was a big deal that they had built a really successful musical career with their talent and their skill, which I didn't feel like that was my case. I feel like I was just blessed because I said, yes, like if you see some videos of me when I first started singing, it's just hilarious, like how this even happened. Like you would just know. My grandpa said, I mean, my grandpa was here, who I played in a band in my bedroom and played at coffee shops, you know, like the first time. He's like, I had no idea what was going on in that bedroom, but it wasn't music. He's like, when I watched the videos, I'm like, how did that turn into a song? Like, it's so true.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it was lost on me a little bit personally that was our livelihood. I didn't think about it that way. Mm-hmm. But for them, it was. And that was a really hard thing. So for them to continue, I was thankful, but it was hard because I wasn't in the band. And so it caused a lot of struggle, you know, for them as far as success and all that. So, so when I went back, I knew that it would bless them. Like I knew it would, because we really didn't have a relationship. I lived in Pennsylvania. They were all in Texas. And I love them. They're my brothers. You know, it's just like estranged family members. You know, we grew up together. And so to come back together over the show, I was like, okay, well, what does this mean? And basically it just means I love those guys. Yeah. I just love those guys no matter where they're at. And yeah, their faith changed. I mean, we put a video out about Samir, you know, and some things he's decided about what he believes that is not the same as what I believe. Mm-hmm. And it makes me love him so much more because he hasn't rejected me, right. You know, even though his beliefs have changed, even though he probably has been mad at me and been upset with me. And thank God he's not bitter still, because he's been willing to work with me again as a sister, you know, just like any family member. You know, I just feel like that's so amazing that makes me respect and love him so much more, because I know what it's like. Everything I don't want to say this in a patronizing way at all, because I don't know the journey God has people on to bring them to, but I 100% believe, I know the depth of God's love for him personally. Like that, I believe in 100% hit God's, you know, with him every step of this journey. And for him, he believes that you can't know for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some humility in that that's pretty beautiful. With Samir having a scientific mind and needing black and white things,
Yeah.
for him to even be open to say, well, okay, we can't really know, is kind of beautiful. And so I don't know where he's going, but I think that honesty is a step forward towards ultimate truth, and in a way, and I'm still stepping towards ultimate truth myself,
Yeah.
and I don't want it to sound judgy, but I understand that the things that he believes right now, I used to think the same way. So I
Sure.
don't mean it in a patronizing way, but I understand where he's coming from. And I don't have his story, so I don't understand it
Yeah.
completely, but there are parts of it that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
not judging him that way. And that's, to me, part of everything that we're talking about right now, is
Yeah.
that again, I'm, like you said, we're not trying, I would never tell anyone to become Orthodox, and please forgive me, Lord, and all, my priests, forgive me. I'm never going to tell somebody to do that, because I don't know where God has people on their journey. And actually,
Mm-hmm.
I was told when I was talking to a priest one time before I was Orthodox, he's like, basically he told me don't become Orthodox, which
Yeah.
made me, as a rebellious person, be like, well, I'm definitely going to now. um, but like I would say that to everybody. Like, I would not say that. I'm not asking anybody to be on my journey or to do that. And that's what's hard, is because a lot of times when I have relationships with fans, I know they take what I say seriously. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
talk to anybody about this for a while. I mean, it's like the 3rd December. It was 3 Decembers ago that we did. But the
Mm-hmm.
theology there, the Orthodox theology there, gives room for the process, which
Yeah.
I didn't have any theology for that before I become Orthodox. The process of becoming who you're created to be.
Yeah.
I know we have sanctification, but we also have instant miracles. And that's the point, to me before. It's like, well, let's just get to the place where we can have instant miracles. We have everything we need. Let's just do it. Why not? Whatever.
Right.
But that doesn't work for everybody on purpose, because they're not going to develop love that way. Like, I have 3 kids, and sometimes when I give them a gift, it makes them fight with each other. Like, instead of make them happier, it makes them hateful. Like, it's
Yeah.
um and then whenever they are forced to develop patience to wait for something, or they go through a discipline because I had to take something away, their hearts are so loving and so humbled and so kind and compassionate in a way that, so I don't know anybody's journey. I
Yeah.
just know my personal journey needed this, the understanding that we are in process, and all the people around us are in process of becoming everything we're created to be.
Mm.
And I'm so thankful for that, because that's what you already taught in your book. And it was so
Yeah.
kind of rebellious to read it when I first was reading that. I wasn't sure. I was like, wow, like, when I first met you, you mentioned about some things that some people that I love and I'm walking with, that they might need medication for something. And that was hard for
Mm.
me, because I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, haven't you seen miracles? Like, why do we need medication, right? But I trusted you because you've seen those things. And even seeing those things, you leave room for a different way of working out the healing process. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that. It's so relieving, because just like you said, we honor everyone's journey. And that's really cool and freeing. That was so long.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, yeah, I think it's important because, I think that when we think of, how do we make a difference in the world? And I think a big way that we make, for too long, what we've tried to do by making a difference is, just teaching people this is the way we're supposed to do things. And that just doesn't work. I think an awareness to just each other's journey, and an awareness to the fact that maybe, different people need different things. And maybe each person, we just don't know what a person has been through. We don't know what's going on inside a person. A lot of times the person doesn't even know. And so really just being bringing awareness into the world that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. But we're all in this process of becoming, who God created us to be. And the point is to stay on the journey instead of exiting off the journey like so many people want to do.
Yeah.
It's just like, I want off of this journey. It's just too painful. It's just too much. And so we save lives by giving room for the doubt, for those types of, conversations. We save more lives rather than telling a person, just think this way and things will be better, because a lot of times people have thought that way and it didn't get any better. And so, and for too long, when we teach that way, and especially theologically, we forget that a lot of times people have tried the thing you're saying. And so when they've already tried that and it didn't work, well, then they feel like they're outside of God's grace. They feel like they're outside of God's love, and they feel like they're outside of hope. And that's when we see, the rise in suicide to the point where it's at right now, where it is so incredibly high right now. It is at numbers that, we never thought possible, like 50,000 people a year, right? Taking their life. That's insane. 100,000 people a year, 4 years running now, by overdose. It's inconceivable to me, especially when we think of who we're supposed to be as people that know Jesus, that our responses have not evolved and our ability to walk with people has not evolved, because the death is certainly evolving. It's certainly, evolving and escalating at a rate, unbelievable rate. So we as lovers of Jesus have got to grow in our compassion and in our empathy at a level that will start to actually help people rather than hurt people.
Well, I think one of the ways that God actually changed my perspective about walking with people, and actually made me so thankful for another day to get to walk with somebody who knows where their story is going to end. And I wrote about this in the foreword for your book, is going through a loved one's death. Because if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't have faced what I understood in that moment was worst case scenario. And I think after going through this sort of, in my mind, the worst case scenario for getting to be in relationship with somebody who ended up not making it the way I wanted them to, or was praying for them to, or hoping or believing. After I went through that, I remember I had to forgive them, and it was a miracle that happened in my heart. And I understood this little drop in the ocean of God, of Christ's forgiveness of us, and the miracle that happens with his forgiveness. When the forgiveness came, it colored everything I ever thought about them with such joy. Like, if I had to do it again, I would do it, and I would do it better. If I had one more chance to talk to them on the phone, what would I say? If I had one more dinner with them, how would I treat them? Even if I knew how it was going to end.
Right.
If God said, I'm giving you one more day, you're not going to change the end, but you get one more day to love them or to be with them. What are you going to do with that moment? And I knew that if I had another moment, I'd be like, I would go get her favorite flowers. I would get her favorite drink. We would go to her favorite restaurant. We would we would talk about all the things that she loves, and I would tell her how great she did at all the things that I was proud of her for, you know, even if she couldn't hear me, you know, even if she didn't hear it, I would get to love her as best I knew. And then I realized, you know, I might not get that day, but I have people right in front of me that I have a day to love, no matter where their story's going to end, you know, because I do believe that we're going to see each other on the other side of this life. I don't believe this is all there is. I do believe when we see God, we're going to understand things that we could never understand on this side. And we're going to be able to say, you are good and perfect, and everything you did was right. And we didn't see it, but you are awesome and good. And because you don't make mistakes, you're holy, you know, and you're good and perfect, and you hold all things together, and your mercy is so beyond what we could understand and fathom. And so when we see each other, you know, just to get to be like, I didn't miss as much. I didn't miss it when I had it, you know. I missed it yesterday, or I didn't do a good job with that time I had there. But today's a new day. That's a gift. I understood that when I had that encounter with God on the day I planned to take my life, was that it was like, it was wrong. It was wrong because life was a gift to me. And what did I do with it? For me, I saw, wow, I am not seeing this as a gift at all. And I remember waking up the next day and all I could see was gifts everywhere. I could only see, wow, birds are a gift. Like, colors are a gift. Music is a gift. Living beauty and humor and relationships that are hard and that are easy, they're gifts. Like, and I was like, wow, like, if this is a gift, I don't want to miss it. Right? I don't want to waste it. I don't want to waste it, because we will see God one day. And if it's not today, I don't want to rush it. Right?
Yeah. And that is so beautiful. I've never actually thought about it that way. What would you do, even like, I've always thought about, like, what would you do if, you know, you had one more moment to try to change it, but not what would you do if you couldn't change it, but what would you do with your last moments with someone? So I honestly have to ponder that, because that's really deep. And I've always, you know, looked at, how would I change a circumstance? And certainly I've been through way too many people passing away for way too many awful reasons. And I'm always, as a counselor, thinking, okay, what could I have done differently? How could I have interacted in order to change things? But what if you can't change it? And so that is super, super powerful. Thank you. Thank
God. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just so thankful. God's so awesome. He's so kind to us. That's the way he loves us, you know. It's and he's inviting us to love others with his love, the way he loved us, right? That's the new commandment. So
yeah. So let's, you know, sort of end with this. What would you say, you know, to someone right now, if you had that moment, that someone who was what would you say to anybody who's, maybe people follow you because they're usually struggling, and so someone watching this interview right now, what would you say to someone who is struggling?
I'm struggling too.
That's really good.
And like, I feel like we should keep struggling.
Yeah.
Don't give up.
That's good. I always have people ask me that, and the next time, that's what I'm going to say. I'm always like, okay, I got to come up with something super, like, it's hard, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm not struggling. Maybe I'm not as safe there as I am here, but right now I know I am. So
yeah. So,
but if we're doing it together, then let's go, George. Let's just keep struggling.
Let's just keep struggling together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, a lot of people don't realize this, but the key to overcoming, opposite of addiction and mental health issues is connection. It's being connected to one another. But also on top of that, when a person is in trauma, a way that we help them heal from that trauma, and that can be a struggle, it can be all kinds of things, is to let them know that they're not alone. It's this moment of being connected with that person that lets them see, I don't have to go through what I'm going through alone, even if you can't change it. And often you can't, right? Because people that deal with some traumas, it's things that we can't change. It's often something that's already happened. So we can't go back in time, but you can be present for a person in their moment of struggle and in their moment of need. And that makes all the difference in the world. It's that connection, that human connection with each other, to let them know that they are loved, that they are seen, that they are heard, and that tomorrow's going to come, and it's better to come with them in it than to come without them.
Yes. Thank God.
Thank God. Lacey, I love you. Thank you so much for spending
Love
time
you.
with us.
Thank
And
you.
I just look forward to continuing the journey of struggle together.
Okay. Yay. Thanks.
Yay. Thanks, Lacey. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Well, that's it, everyone. That's today's show. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the power of Lacey Sturm's testimony and just her perception of faith, overcoming pain and trauma. Amazing individual. So I hope you were able to subscribe to the station. If not, you still have a chance. Please do so. Be sure to hit that like button and come back next time for more content from the Sober Truth Podcast.